Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Clangin Bang with Mikey, episode 152. And man, we are like 14, 13 weeks um till show day, the Arnold Classic Amateur. And oh yeah, by the way, holiday cups, gotta love them, festive as fuck. Anyway, yeah, we are about 13, 14 weeks, some somewhere, right? At this point, I'm not even too worried about the weeks. I'm just worried about beating my last package and coming in leaning, coming in more ripped, coming in more condition, and that's what the goal is. The goal is always that. Goal is to always beat your last package. Um, but yeah, man. I've been recently. Well, as you guys know, I've been. I jokingly say that I've been illegally adopted, or I've been mannapped by a bunch of extroverts that I work with, right? And I say that, but honestly, they're slowly helping me get out my shell. And they're slowly helping me. Not that I have a problem being social, but yeah, I think every introvert needs a few extroverts in their life. Because even though I joke that they are a lot, they are good people. And yeah, but the topic of this podcast, man, is gonna be about you ever look at somebody and you're completely wrong in that aspect, right? Um, in that case, for me, and I don't really follow celebrities or do any of that bullshit because to me, motherfuckers is like they're just regular people who were good at who focused in on their craft and they did what they had to do to make it. It's like as you guys can see behind me, music setup, right? No, I'm not saying that and we'll touch on that topic later on. I'm not saying that I'm gonna get famous off this music or whatever it is, because hey, if I do, great. If I don't, whatever, right? It's I don't do music for people. I do music for myself. Anyway, I was watching. I didn't get to finish the Charleston White interview with Cam Newton. I watched about an hour 10, hour 15 minutes of it. So I gotta go back and finish the whole thing because it's 3 hours long. And a lot of the stuff he was saying was true. When he talked about growing up in a home where it's like, yeah, I had a loving mother, but I had a dad who was wayward, you know, and or growing up in a home where my older brother, I think he said, when he was 10 years old, he's like, yeah, man, I'm gonna kill somebody. And by the time you know, and by the time he turned 17, his brother turned 17, he had done that. He had killed somebody. And he went on to explain that when he told his mother what his brother said, his mother's first reaction was to beat him. Instead of his mother asking him, "Oh, you know, why do you want to do that? That's you shouldn't. Instead of asking questions, she just beat him." And he wanted to talk about because he dropped names in the interview too, and he went out and talked about one of his best friends. He said one of his best friends growing up. He said when he was 5 years old, he had his first homicidal thought, and it was here's the kicker. It was after his dad brutally beat him, and it wasn't until the dad came back and with tears in his eyes and he said, "Son, I'm sorry for doing that." But and Charleston White said something that stuck out to me. He's like, imagine if he would have talked to his son rather than beating him. You know what I mean? Rather than doing what he did, he possibly could have saved a life. Because I believe White said that his friend stabbed somebody 93 times, doing life without parole. All because at 5 years old, he got beat severely. And I think as black people, man, as like we have this ingrained trauma in us, you know, whether it's from, you know, 400 plus years of slavery or just followed by segregation, all kinds of shit, right? So I'm sitting there, I'm thinking like, damn, this brother's right. This brother's 100% right. Because when you think about it, man, and even if you go back and you watch the clips on social media, where he's talking about, like, yeah, you know what, it's crazy to me, like, I'm over here dropping my daughter off to school, and I got this song on the radio talking about, like, twerking and popping your pussy and doing all kinds of shit. And he's like, this isn't shit that I, that I bought. This is off the radio. And he's like, how can you, promote that type of music, but at the same time, it's like, like you want to say black empowerment, and empowerment and everything like that too, because it makes you think. It's like, okay. And it's interesting hearing it from another person's perspective too, because I was wrong in my original assessment. I thought the dude was a snitch. I thought he was X, Y, and Z. I thought he was a loudmouth, but in reality he's really not. He's actually kind of smart, because he's bringing you the issues to the forefront, and he's making you pay attention. And he's like, when Cam Newton did the interview or did the introduction, he corrected Newton, and he said, like, he's like, man, I was never an entrepreneur. I was, I was working with guys in Capitol Hill, guys in Congress, senators and congressmen. I was doing all that stuff. I was wearing suits and bow ties and everything, man. He's like, I read a lot, and it was funny. Well, not funny, but when he said he read a lot, because he was institutionalized from, I think he said, from ages 14 to 21. And then he also said too, when he was 5 years old, like, he broke every bone in his body, by falling into a washer that still turned on, and that was still working when he fell into it, and he broke every bone in his body from the waist down. And when he said, and then he had multiple surgeries for his eye and everything too, because he has a prosthetic eye, and he was saying all this stuff, and he was like, I can resonate with that, man, because it's like, for me, it's like, I read a lot, and like, I'm always looking up stuff. I'm always trying to, look for knowledge. I mean, like, hell, I still get the word of the day, I haven't used it in a sentence in a while, but I still do that, you know what I mean? And so it's imperative that people understand that not everybody learns the same way, not everybody's gonna, not everybody's gonna be, able to do the same things you do, and that's fine, Or for me, it's beats and words, where I can sit there and I can make a track in probably, well, about 30 minutes, take me an hour to write the vocals and everything, boom, 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 and then I can lay the track down. It takes me another 45 minutes to edit the vocals, put some effects on it, and boom, I got an album, you know what I mean? Or I got a song. And I think everybody has gift, and everybody has different things to go about them, right? And the one thing I thought about White is like, it's like I was completely wrong in my assessment, because here I am going off of social media and everything too. I mean, not that I didn't. I mean, because like I said, I don't pay attention to all that shit. I really don't. If you were to ask me who the hottest rappers in the game are, I would have no idea who you talking about, because maybe it's my age or whatever it is, but I don't gravitate towards this new music shit. It's like, I'm strictly 90s R&B, 90s hip hop, early 2000s. That's what it is. I don't really need. I don't really feel the need to, unless it's an artist that I really like. Lil Baby, I like him because he's conscious. J. Cole, obviously. Kendrick, obviously. Who else? Tim's, I like her. There's a whole bunch of people, man, that I listen to, and there's like and it all depends on my mood. You know what I mean? It's like and it was and he to piggyback to go back to what White said about growing up and everything. He said the same thing too. He was like, yeah, he's like, I had a mother who worked for General Motors. Um, you know, middle class. Never never wanted for nothing. Got everything provided for me, but my mother was always there. You know, but even though she was there, she wasn't there, and I understood what he was saying, because it's like you're working so much that you don't have that um that that constant figure in your life, but she was there. And then he mentioned too, like his granddaddy was a pimp, his uncles was a pimps and players and whatnot too. So he's around these men that aren't the best men for him, because honestly they model what they saw, and so they figured, okay, like pops did this, I'm gonna do this too. Boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? It's like, and he even said too that and then you got the single mothers, or the mothers who are single, who who are essentially because he brought up different categories, right? And the two categories that stuck out to me was when he brought up the the loving, nurturing mother is almost as bad, or just as bad as a whole mother. The promiscuous mother. Because and he went on to explain why. Because you're gonna model what you see. You know, and if you grew up in a household that's promiscuous or whatever it is, um, and there's difference too, because kids need their dad. And I resonated with that, because even though my pops is there, that nigga never really was there in my opinion. And it's to me it was unfortunate, because I think if my dad was more in tune with me growing up, uh, in tune to my interests, in tune to basically everything that I wanted to do, everything that I strive to meet, I probably would, not that I'm a not that I'm a bad product or a bad person, because I'm not. I probably wouldn't been up. My confidence level wouldn't have taken so long to get to where it's at now. And um that's another part of me where it's like it took me the longest time to, because believe it or not, I was so shy growing up that I would I wouldn't spend time. I wouldn't go outside and play in recess. I would literally, most of the time I would sit in my class, and I would read, or I would write, you know. And there was that. Or at the times I did go outside, my mother would always pack snacks for me, right? And I remember, I think I was in the fourth or fifth grade. My teacher had a rule, and she said, uh, nobody can eat in the classroom, because I don't want messes in the classroom. It makes sense, because you don't want to clean it up. So I would go outside, eat my snack, couple minutes, boom, come back. Um, so it's like, and years went on with that, man. It's like and I credit bodybuilding for helping me break out of that, because it's like I just, for years it was identified as two things. People saw the disability first, and then they saw me. And yeah, that's what it was, until I started being a competitive bodybuilder. And now it's like, okay, boom, he does all this, but okay, cool. But he's obviously got a physical disability, because look how he walk, right? Um, yeah. But Charleston White, man, is like, when he talked about his family, and I could see myself in him, you know. I could see myself that in that situation, because yeah, my parents were married. Well, yeah, we're married. But it was one of them situations where they probably should have never got married, or they probably should have got divorced. A few years down the road. Um, yeah, man. And it's crazy because my dad grew up like Charleston White. You know, my my big mama, my paternal grandmother, you know, was a domestic house cleaner. Uh, she didn't have no skills, no education, just stubborn as hell. But that woman had mad love for her grandbabies. It was what it was, right? Um, but I saw firsthand when she came to live with us, you know, the general trauma that my dad went through. And I was young at the time, too. I was like maybe 11 or 12. I didn't really understand what was going on. And when all that shit hit, I'm like, decades later, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense why my dad was the way he was because, you know, he was dealing with somebody, who I don't want to say didn't want the best for him, but she didn't know how to provide that, you know. He was dealing with some, well, first things first is like he had a stepfather who used to beat his ass. Like this nigga would beat my pop's ass until my dad got big enough on that. My dad started whooping his ass, and it was a wrap, you know. And but yeah, a lot of the times, man, when my dad got mad, he spoke with his hands. And when I say that, I ain't going to explain what that meant, because y'all can pick it up. And in turn, in certain situations, I speak with my hands. That's why I tell people, I'm like, yo, I may walk funny, but my hands work fine. Come test a nigga out. And I'm not joking when I say that, because I would most likely lay you down a few times. I mean, I don't want to do that, but it is what it is. And I think a lot of black folk, man, we got to do better. Um, we have to do better in terms of understanding ourselves, and understanding what our triggers are, what our traumas are, and how to break that generational curse, because it's just got to end with us, you know. Um, no kid should have to go through being scared of their parents, being beat by their parents, or I mean, don't get me wrong. It's like there's a there's a fine line between disciplining your kids and whooping the shit out of them. And a lot of the times, black folk, they do the they do the latter. They beat the shit out of the kids because you got to realize that's all that they know. And if that's all they know, then it's like they're gonna do the exact same thing that they know because they think it's right. Like I said before in previous podcasts, I didn't understand what healthy communication looked like until I moved out, until I was living on my own and I saw how people communicate, even in disagreements. And I'm talking married couples and how they handle conflict. I never saw that growing up, you know. I never saw, you know, healthy disagreements. I never saw, okay, well, let's table this and come back to it at a later time. I never saw that growing up. What I saw was chaos. And so for me, I mean, at one point in time, I thought that shit was normal. And then I saw what a healthy relationship looked like. And I'm like, yo, everything that I saw growing up, whether it's from elementary, middle school, high school, college, it was all bullshit. It's like you don't sustain a healthy relationship by being disrespectful. You don't sustain a healthy relationship by being condescending or being, or gaslighting motherfuckers or whatever it is. You don't do that because it's like that's not conducive. That's not healthy. That doesn't fix anything. Um, um, a situation I was in, girl I was seeing, like let's just say that. I asked her like, yo, cause she was doing X, Y, and Z, and I was like, yo, are we good? And she's like, okay. And then she told me no. I was like, okay, so what do we got to do to fix this? You know, like tell me what the issue is so we can fix it. And then this individual told me, well, there's nothing to fix. And I go, okay, there's nothing to fix, but here you are, peeping my social medias, you know, doing all this stuff, right? But there's nothing to fix. And I remember telling a homegirl about it, and she was like, "Yo, like the only reason she's doing that is because she wants to see that if you moved on as fast as as maybe she did, or maybe she hasn't moved on and she just wants to see what you up to." I was like, "Huh?" She's like, "Yeah, it's weird, but that's how most women think, you know." I was like, "I don't make any fucking sense." She's like, "Yeah, I know it doesn't." She's like, "Mikey, I know it doesn't." and and when she said all that, it made sense because it's like, oh, you know, you don't you don't want to fix things with me. You know, you want to sit there and play victim in the situation, but at the same time, you're gonna get mad because you're gonna get mad at me for responding to the energy that you gave me. And my homegirl was like, yeah, she's like, honestly, is like, you know, she's like, she's like, I can't speak for her, and nor would I, but at the same time, it's like, women who do that means that she probably did care about you, you know, she just didn't know how to show it, you know, or she probably finally met a dude who was actually really, really fucking nice, and she didn't know how to handle that because that's not what she's used to. And my homegirl was like, yeah, like women will do that. Like they'll sabotage something great or something good, what that has a potential to be great, simply because, you know, they don't know how to handle that. And I don't dwell on things, or get stuck in situations that often like this, because there's no point. I don't live in hypotheticals. I don't do none of that shit because that's not reality. But it made sense because why would you do all that? And if you don't care about an individual, right? And at the same time, man, it's like it goes back to what I was saying about generational trauma, you know, uh, generational trauma and traumas in general. Um, a lot of us carry these generational traumas from great grandparents to grandparents to parents to us, and so what? That's four fucking sets of parents. Great grandparents, grandparents, parents. Oh, three sets. My bad, three sets, and us. So you mean to tell me you got three generations of trauma and everything else that goes on with it, and you don't want it, and you don't want it to end? I'm not saying that you got to interact with people. I'm not saying you're gonna do X, Y, and Z because you don't. But at the same time, it's like if you do have kids, you gotta love on them and you gotta love on them the right way. And you gotta make sure that the person that you're picking to lay down with is actually the person who can handle that emotionally too. Because everybody looks good naked. But the key thing is, can you address this without taking this off? Yeah, can you address their mind, their mental, without taking this off? Because if you can do that without taking this off, bro, you in there. Um, and I think a lot of the times people they equate um physical intimacy with just sex. It's not physical intimacy to me. And I explained this to Shorty too. The homegirl the girl I was with. And then I said, yo, it's like physical intimacy to me is not us taking our clothes off. Yeah, that's a part of it. And yeah, it's fun, you know. But physical intimacy is like it's like us sitting on the couch and I don't know, watching a movie or something, or you playing with my beard, whatever it is, or you rub on my ears and whatnot. I mean, or it's like you having it, you having your hand with you just draped on my thigh, or you somehow in a way physically touching me in a way that's not sexually, but just a reminder, like, yo, I'm still here, and going back to the Charleston White thing, man, it's like I think that's what a lot of people are misunderstood by him, because he's just bringing it to the forefront, and he's talking about so many different issues, and he's talking about the one thing he said that stuck out with me too, because he had a bunch of valid points. He said, I was that suit and tie brother, wearing the bow ties, wearing suits, working with congressmen. Y'all motherfuckers ain't give me the time of day until I started talking like a thug nigga. Until I started dressing like one. Until I started, doing all this shit. So I gave you the product, but at the same time, it's like how I presented myself was I had to change it because it was different, and it's true, because if he was out here, doing interviews with wearing a suit and tie, these motherfuckers wouldn't take him seriously, But he had to change up because it's like, in order to get his message across, you gotta present yourself in a way that people can identify with. And most black people, what we identify with, majority of us, hustlers, pimps, players, womanizers, guys who've been to the penitentiary, all this shit, right? And so it's crazy to me that he had to change up just to get his message across. And it's like, when he explains himself, when he says, like, fuck King Von, fuck Dion, and fuck Nick, he's not saying individually fuck them. What he's saying is that black people love celebrities, but these celebrities never come and help us regular black folk. It's true. And when he brought up the community, he's like, man, fuck the community, because the community's out, the community don't give a fuck about you. And it's true, it doesn't. They love what you can do for them, but if you need help with something else, they ain't helping you. And that's some of the main points I took away from the interview, and I thought that was extremely interesting. I have to go back and finish the whole thing. But this is about 28 minutes of your life that you won't get back. Hope y'all keeping the full piece. Private player, positive pushing. I see y'all next week.